So this is a questions and answer review for the Sambo Creek Filtration BABF series of filter trolleys. So these machines are special for dewaxing, removal of fats, lipids, waxes, things of that nature. And so we have a Q&A in our website, which basically is over time people have asked these questions and we try to, answer them, but we've posted them so everybody can um, take a look at what people have asked before, what questions and concerns we've had before, and so you can review them. But here I'm just going to read them out for you and elaborate a little bit as much as I can. If you have further questions, you can always reach us on Instagram. There's a lot of information and posts from us and from our followers and friends and customers. You can ask there, or you could also go to future4200.com and either ask your questions there and we will try to answer. If not, the community in general and other users with this equipment could probably elaborate a little bit more than we could. But so yeah, let's begin. So why do I need to winterize and dewax? So some extracts have contaminants, sometimes found in fats and lipids. These contaminants cause foul smell and taste, so must be removed. Yeah, so in general, when you're doing like a BHO or something like that, CO2 to varying degrees, they pull different things, and you could have extracts that have really bad smells. Some methods aren't so prone to these tastes and smells as others, but if you know, right, that some of this stuff is really stinky, and when it goes into the SPD, um, you really do see these things. You have to do a second pass or something to remove all of this, all of these contaminants. But by removing these fats and waxes, you improve the shelf life and stability of your final product, reducing problems like discoloration and oxidation in the distillate. You see that right after the stuff sits over time. Generally the top layer of it might start to change color, or the whole thing, and when it's in carts this is pronounced. I think that really in general most carts over time they discolor. um, I myself have not seen carts that have an extended shelf life, and I mean like a year or something like that. I mean, I'm sure there must be some fantastic stuff out there that I haven't seen, but over time everything oxidizes, and there's different methods that you can use to reduce the oxidential potential of your distillates. And one of those ways is to removing as much fats, waxes, lipids, and oils as you can, because they will tend to cause all sorts of problems. So since crude oils may be 50% wax, by removing these earlier in the process, the amount of extracts to process may be reduced in half. What I mean is, like, for example, if you have a CO2 oil, CO2 oil sometimes may be 50% wax. I have seen a lot of CO2 oils that are heavy in waxes. So if I have 100 liters of crude, after I de-wax, so what I should be maybe at 50 liters of crude, right? And so that really helps me on my downstream process, because I don't need such massive equipment, because I'm really only handling half that volume. And then also, I know that the popes and the wipe films and rolling films and all these systems are very sensitive to all of this nasty crude, and they can get damaged. The stuff gunks up, and friction, heat, things break, bad things happen. So yeah, I mean, if you have $100,000-$200,000 machine and you're putting in very contaminated stuff, you run the risk of damaging these machines. So and again, I mean, I'm not a research scientist. This is just things I've heard over time, and if I'm saying something here that is wrong, please by all means troll me. Okay, your website says you're out of stock. Yeah, so it's we're a small company and our factory is not that massive. We try to keep as much inventory as we can, but if you go to our website and it's out of stock, that's just out of stock. How big are your trolleys? So yeah, the trolleys can get they can get pretty big. I mean, you can take a look at here. I mean, the seems to be the popular the Bell Arts. Those are the polyethylene tabletop filtering apparatuses. You know, the 800, which is the biggest one we sell, is 1.7 times that, and the small 5-inch, 5.5-inch Hawkstrom is actually 29. The 800 is 29 times larger than that. So you know, filtration is a function of area. The more filter area you have, the faster these things go. Given if everything else is the same, bigger is better within limits, right? If you're filtering the same material under the same conditions, yes, I'm not saying that this filter will filter 29 times more than a Hawkstrom, but if the conditions are all the same, yes, it will filter 29 times more than it, and so on and so forth. So yeah, bigger is better, and but it's also important to get the right size application. You know, I mean, if you have a gallon of crude to filter, I would never recommend you to buy an 800 millimeter trolley. It's just overkill. We have cheaper options that'll do just the same. How fast does your 800 millimeter filter trolley? So the pump is rated for 26 gallons per minute, but your filtration rate will depend on the surface area that you're filtering at. Obviously, the more surface area, the better. The porosity of the filter paper and cloth used, which that's usually the biggest limiting factor. You know, if you're using a 10 micron paper and it's only got these little holes in there, and those holes only let so much solution through it, so that is your limiting factor, the actual paper. So you know, but obviously, if you have more filter area, there's more space for the solution to crawl through the paper, and you go a little bit faster. Also, if you're using a filter aid or not, how how thick the filter aid layer is, and what is the general filtration characteristics of your filter aid, because some of these filter aids, like the food grade diatomaceous earth, has very little small particle sizes, and sometimes it does more bad than good. I mean, it'll slow down your filtration instead of actually helping it. What solvent are you using? You know, the different solvents have different viscosities, and then your solution. So if you have a crude and it's dissolved 10 to 1, it's going to filter faster than you have a 4 to 1 crude or a 5 to 1 crude. How cold is it? You know, I mean, I know if you're using a solvent, like for example, a 190 proof ethanol or less that has more water in it, and it's a minus whatever 67 or something, it's gonna be a lot less viscous, right? And so that's gonna be more like a Slurpee. And so obviously, if you're filtering a Slurpee, that's gonna be a lot slower than if you're filtering a very runny liquid. So if you're filtering a hot solvent, it goes a lot faster than a cold solvent, you know, because of its viscosity. The percentage of solids in suspension. So your crude has fats in it, right? But how big are the fats? I mean, do you have little itty bitty fat pieces, or do you have big chunks of it, right? Um, eh, and what percentage of it? Do you have 5% fats, 50% fats? And the particle distribution within those percentages of fats. So, you know, I get it, right? You just want to know how fast it's going to go. Well, I mean, it's given all of these variables, it's just a portion of the variables. The altitude that you're in, barometric pressure, all of these things will change. But unless we have a laboratory condition where we can actually do testing, yeah, I mean, there's really no way to tell you how fast it's going to filter. And you'll have variances from strain to strain, from batch to batch, even from user to user. Um, what we recommend simply is, you know, if you try out a filter and see how it goes, we'll help you get a flow rate. You could get a laboratory size unit to determine if this type of setup is appropriate for your situation. We do offer a 30-day money back guarantee, at least at the filming of this video, anyways. But we do plan to stand by our product, and so far everybody's been happy with the filters. They're really good, they're really fast, and that's pretty much because they're huge. So this could user has to have a Wattman #1 paper, BHO extract at minus 20C, no filter aid. So yeah, no filter aid. There you go. That's your first one, right? Your biggest surface area trolley filter, which would be the 800. How long until the filter clogs up on the first pass? 50% potency. I'm not sure what 50% potency is. Maybe he's talking about 50% wax. An OG with heavy waxes, right? So yeah, okay. So a heavy wax OG. I'm kind of stuck that SC doesn't just answer the question for any set of normal working conditions, whether it's room temperature filtration followed by cold or straight or cold. Use of a filter aid, etc. It's too much to have an SOP. Yeah, okay. So obviously we lived and learned. We do have an SOP that we recommend, and we try to just accommodate ourselves to your SOP, because it kind of sucks when you bring in new equipment to your laboratory and you have to change the way you do things simply because the equipment is different. With our equipment, the idea is that you just throw away the other Buchner funnels that you have, and you add this straight into the process, and it's just going to make everything go easier, better, faster. My fear with all filtration solutions is that the filter paper clogs and needs to be replaced within 30 seconds of operation. Yes, so this is user error. Yes, of course it's going to bind, but our SOP talks about this. What you do, how you do it. You do it in a three-step process. First, you remove the chunky bits, then the medium size, and then the really fine stuff in a three-step process. That if you do the three steps, overall, your overall filtration is going to be a lot faster than if you try. Because if you have, for example, 1 micron paper and you're throwing heavy waxes over it, of course it's going to clog up in seconds. Absolutely. So this is user error, and I get it, and we try to, and this is why we're doing these videos and things like that. So we try to help you guys out and really understand how and why to do this quicker, better, faster. Okay, so let's go over it in layman's terms. What percentage of wax is in your crude? I guess he says about 50%, right? So not all BHO is the same. The percentage of wax differs by strain, batch, or method, which I've stated. The greater the wax, the slower the filtration rate. Is it going to filter at minus 20? So that's another thing, right? Again, so it depends what temperature you're winterizing at. We actually recommend winterizing. So you take your BHO, dissolve it at, hot solvent, let it cool to room temperature. That drops a ton of fats. Filter that out, and then proceed to winterizing at different temperatures. The colder the solution, that's lower it filters. What solvent are you using? Again, if you're using 40 proof alcohol, that's got a lot of water in it, and that's going to turn into a Slurpee. If you're using pure ethanol, it has different properties. So you can research some of the papers on Future 4200, but so there's a specific paper that talks about ethanol. I mean, pure solvents are very good at dissolving things in them. So you want to keep certain active compounds dissolved, but you don't want the fats and lipids to be impossible to drop out, right? And by reducing the solubility of your solvent, you eliminate some of these problems. So instead of having to go to a negative 86C, you can actually drop those things out at lower temperatures or warmer temperatures by simply changing the percentage of water in your solvent by reducing its solubility. But anyways, yeah, so I'm trying to explain here how difficult it is to calculate, right? I mean, if you're doing a 40 to 1 solvent versus crude, it's going to go a lot faster than, of course, if you do a 10 to 1, but then you have more solution to filter. What number one, what porosity is it, right? I mean, so a lot of people don't understand this, but you can have a 1 micron paper that could filter, I don't know, 5 milliliters per minute, but then they also have 1 micron paper that could do 20 milliliters per minute. So same micron size, but the filtration rate is going to be different. It just go a lot faster. Yeah, and then obviously if you use a low micron paper as a first pass, yeah, your filtration is going to, it's going to go very slow, and it's going to clog very fast. So yeah, so if you do a rough pass at 45 microns, then 5 microns, then 1.5 microns, like again a 3-stage filtration, it goes faster. So this goes back to the beginning. So imagine if you're filtering muddy water. You know, you can't expect to go down to a 1 micron in one pass. If you look at RO systems, they have like, I don't know, three, four, five, six, seven different cartridges, and each different cartridge removes a different size particle, and that's how you can get to this RO water. Because if you use the finest cartridge from the beginning, it would get clogged up immediately. So again, stage filtration is the key to having fast filtration speeds. It's counterproductive to think if I filter it 3 times, it's faster than I do it once. Isn't that idiotic? No. Yeah, I think I've answered this question pretty much. And again, we'll provide an SOP. It's really standard, simple, cookie cutter, and through shared knowledge, I have users telling me different things that we've learned from, and hopefully this way we can all learn through the process, and we are an open community, and we share openly with our users and the general public. Even if you don't buy our equipment, we do sell filter paper and filter media that you can use to just increase your filtration speeds, and we feel that sharing knowledge is generally beneficial to everybody, and we hope that our users will give us points, tips, and tricks that we can share with other users and get everybody going faster. So have you tested your filter trolley at minus 86C? It says a polypropylene temperature range is minus 15C, I believe. So it says a key factor in the molecule's ability to slip and slide is temperature. Specifically, there's something called the glass transition temperature, which is the point below which an amorphous solid, such as glass, polymers, tire rubber, or cotton candy, goes from being a ductile to brittle. For most common materials, says Rutledge, this temperature is so high or so low that it is not easily observed. The TG of window glass is 564C, and that of tire rubber is minus 72C. Many plastics exhibit their transition at everyday temperatures and can be frozen into brittleness. One example, polypropylene, an inexpensive material often used in containers, toys, blah, 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 has a transition temperature between minus 20 and 0, so it can easily lose its molecular ability to become shatterproof on a winter day. So, and there's a reference for that. You can look at some of our YouTube videos where we're actually winterizing in a garbage can, and you can see how the garbage can is frosted outside. But the garbage can is not exactly breaking, is it? So that being said, please note, we do not condone the use of our equipment outside of material tolerances. That being said, it's improbable that a 20 millimeter thick polypropylene will crack due to temperature itself. Fractures would be the product of an impact while at glass transition temperatures and or subjecting the machine to quick shifts in temperature by pouring warm solution on a machine that is at minus 70C. So far, these machines are filtering cold winterized fluids without fractures. Take a look at the videos. So when the plastic is a it's an insulator. Has a very high R value. It doesn't transmit temperature very well. So in our tests, we've been doing minus 30C, minus 50C, minus 70C. You pour the solution in, and the solution is very cold, but the machine itself, you usually do not see condensation or frosty material or whatever, frozen condensate on the outside of the machine, just because the temperature doesn't transmit very well. The plastic is 3/4 of an inch. I mean, this is not a Bell Art that's polyethylene and it's like a 1/4 inch thick. So for this to freeze and for this to break, it's very difficult because it's a very strong, thick plastic. So just don't hit it with a hammer while it's frozen, If you're going to wash it, just wait for it to reach room temperature before you decide to throw some hot alcohol in there to wash it down. Just use common sense. We warrant our equipment, but I mean, I can totally see somebody putting this thing inside dry ice and then doing something silly to it, and it's going to break, of course. I mean, even stainless steel will break if you just don't use your head. So just operate it under normal conditions and you won't have any problems. If you're winterizing correctly, you don't need to use these crazy temperatures to have acceptable results. But even if you do use these temperatures, with care, you really shouldn't be concerned about temperature. So I'm getting a comment, I guess, from Future. Um, how fast does the 800 millimeter filter trolley filter? So here's a couple notes. If you're using a 1.5 micron paper, the maximum of 3.93 gallons a minute. The paper that we sell at 1.5 microns, given an 800 millimeter surface area, which is actually 765 mils, the maximum it can go is 3.93 gallons a minute. So there you go. So if you're at that size, you can't go faster than that simply because the paper will not allow more fluid to flow through it. If I'm using a 45 micron paper, I would be at a limit of 91.8 gallons a minute. Keep in mind that the pump has a limit of 26 gallons a minute, so the fastest I could ever go, anyways, is 26 gallons. Based on rapidity filter paper being 60 milliliters, so the 1.5 micron has a rapidity of 60 milliliters per minute. So that's how fast. I think it's a square inch filters. So every square inch can do 60 milliliters per minute. I'm not sure if it was a square inch or a square centimeter, somewhere around those lines. Alstrom did the calculations for me, but regardless, right? The paper is the limiting factor, and there's different rapidity papers. So you can look at our website, or you could go to Alstrom and look at their rapidities and say, okay, I need this grade paper. That's the difference in grades, that you could have 5 different grades that are all 1 micron, but they all filter at different speeds, and they cost different monies. So take a look at what we have and say, well, I can live with this rapidity because the price is good, or no, 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 this I need it to go faster. I don't care paying a little bit of extra money. It's gonna last more. And some of the 1 micron papers, wow, they're really fragile. I mean, they'll just rip in your hand. So some of the stuff is just very delicate, difficult to install, but it does filter a lot faster. So why is no solution coming out of my pump? I started a few minutes ago and nothing happens. Yeah, it takes a few minutes for the pump to prime. It fits a lot of solution down there, right? By the time things percolate down, work its way down the sloped bottom into the pipes, fill up the pump, and actually come out. Just give it some patience. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to actually start coming out. Are they C1D1 compliant? Yes. So the class 1 division 1 ratings talks about safety and things of that nature. You can Google what C1D1 is, but look, the pump doesn't have a motor on it. It has an air operated diaphragm. So there's no electricity, there's no risk of a spark. It can't blow up on you because it does have safety features from implosion. There's no sparks, there's nothing to ignite. It even comes with a fume hood. If your fire marshal is asking for that type of compliance, and you can connect the fume hood to your extractor, your laboratory extractor, and exhaust those fumes, yeah, you should have no problem with it. Then again, it's not certified because it does not have to be certified because it doesn't contain anything. It's like I have a Bellart funnel. Is it C1D1 compliant? Is it C1D? Is it ASME certified? Is it whatever certification? No, it isn't. You can't certify a garbage can. You can't. So something like that, right? I'm probably wrong, but these things just don't get certified. What consumables do you need for this machine? So it uses filter paper. It comes with a filter cloth on the bottom, which should last you months with proper care. You put paper on top, and then you can choose to put a filter aid on top of that, whether it be diatomaceous earth, perlite, whatever, which you can buy from us or you can buy from Amazon or whatever. It doesn't matter. Also, there's a little gasket that goes around the side. Gasket's about $5 a foot or something. It's cheap. The paper, it's all inexpensive, but those are the main consumables. Where do we get the paper and cloth? Yeah, we sell the cloth. The smaller laboratory size presses, you can buy them off of Amazon, or you could actually call and your favorite paper manufacturer an order, but of course you need to buy thousands of sheets of paper. Um, the medium and the large size filters, you cannot buy those online. You just can't. You have to buy them from us. They don't make the size. But if you custom manufacture, you could buy this off of somebody else. So you're not bound to us by any means. You know, you can manufacture the paper yourself. Uh, but we stock several grades. If we do not stock the grade that you want, just give us a call and say, hey, listen, I need this grade. Can you get it for me? Absolutely. We will cut it for you and stock it for you. Absolutely. So what's a cloth used for? The main function of the cloth is to create a uniformly porous surface for your filter paper to sit on. The filter grade, for obvious reasons, has no holes, has holes to filter through, and thus reduces the total surface area. If you use paper alone, you do not get the benefit of it. So what happens is that there's little holes in the bottom that are drilled, right? In a perfect world, there would be no holes. It would just be one big hole, so you would have the actual surface area. We don't have, you know, an expensive patented filter bottom, you know, with fancy shapes, whatever, to get it to filter super great. So, you know, but we don't need to. By placing a filter cloth, the cloth is actually rated at something absurd like 45 cubic feet per minute, which is, you know, the pump can't keep up. So that way you separate the cloth, the paper from the filter grade. I don't know if you've seen in your Buchner funnel when you're filtering, like I used to use coffee filters, we get these little rings where all the junk would stack up on. So that those little rings was really the only area where the filter was filtering through, and that's why those little circles form. You don't see that in our filter because it's a really simple solution. There's no need to get fancy here. The cloth really does all the difference, and it really increases that surface area to a real 800 or whatever size that you're filtering. You must always use the cloth. Paper, depending if you're roughing, it's optional. Again, you know, you always have to use the cloth. So it's the cloth on the bottom and then the paper on top of the cloth. And then on top of the paper, the filter aid, and you pour your solution over the filter aid. Not the paper first and then the cloth. No, 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 no. It's the other way around. First the cloth goes over the grate, and then the paper. I had a user ask me about this. So yeah. You can use the cloth on its own, but cover it with a filter aid, because if you bind the cloth, I guess you could like pressure wash it or something like that, but you're kind of, you'd have to toss it out, and on the big one it's like $75, so it's not cheap, but if you use it correctly it'll last long. So yeah, you can filter just with the cloth. What's the smallest micron paper you can use? Probably about a 1 micron. There are some other grades, but the high flow point whatever micron papers, they don't manufacture them this sizes, because if you really start to pay attention, the papers that do sub-micron sizes are very delicate, they're very fragile. So when you get to these papers, these paper diameters, they just rip apart. They really just rip apart, and it'd be impossible to install. You might throw away 10 papers before you actually get a successful install, just because you just rip it. Why is paper so expensive? Okay, so let's do the math, and I hate to point a finger at a competitor or anything like that. And for all intents and purposes, Bellart makes fantastic machines. I know the Drain Droid is a very nice machine, and the Hawkstrom has been the one that we've seen that is the most popular, and I know Summit's been very successful in selling the Hawkstrom, and congratulations to them. And so we did use the Hawkstrom here as an example. But so if we compare apples to apples, it'll actually take 29 Hawkstrom filters to equal the same surface area at an 800 millimeter trolley. So this Hawkstrom stage 1 paper is 20 microns, the stage 2 is 8 microns, and the stage 3 is 1 micron. But yeah, I know that the papers usually for the Hawkstroms come in about a 500 sheet case. We come in a 100 sheet case, but so one sheet of mine is equal to 29 sheets of Hockstrom. If I sell a 100 sheet pack, the prices are more expensive. We include shipping usually on all of our products. So if you go to my website and you see a 100 sheet pack and it's whatever, $700, $300, that's $300 including shipping. Okay. So if you run the math, a stage one Hockstrom filter of equal diameter would work out to $6.65 per sheet. Our paper is $3.05 a sheet. So, we are half. And to get through one filtration, you'd have to change that paper 29 times. I don't know if some includes shipping or not. I have no idea, but you can research that on your own. Um, Comparably, I know that the Drain Droid filter paper is not cheap either, so we are within range. So if you look at it that way, it's a big price tag, but it's inexpensive, um, in comparison to what other people are charging. If you buy in bulk at 1,000 sheet packs, these are the prices that I'm quoting. Obviously, my 100 pack sheets are a lot more expensive because just the shipping alone is very expensive. These things are huge, they're heavy, and they have to be boxed up properly so UPS and FedEx don't send you mashed up paper. Are they ASME certified? So pay attention. Filtration equipment does not get ASME certified. There is no filter trolley that can get ASME certified. The the oh my god, the Bellard does not get ASME certified, and all of the others, you know, the Hawkstrom is not ASME certified. It just doesn't. It just can't. We follow all the guidelines, all of our pipes, hydraulics, whatever, all that stuff. Uh, we follow guidelines, but it just can't get that certification. Um, our filter presses and our trolleys are in many factories, and they must be FDA certified. Um, but they don't get that certification. So all the components that we follow are FDA, like the plastic is FDA, the diaphragms are FDA per their guidelines, but you can't get that little stamp. Are they food grade? Yep, they are food grade, and I have the plastics are food grade, so it's made with food grade materials. Um, if you buy one, you will actually get the Simona certification of FDA compliance. Yeah, they're food grade. Are they insulated or jacketed? No, there is no insulation per se. The plastic is an insulator. This is a high R value plastic, about 3/4 of an inch thick or something like that. And it just does not transfer temperature very well. If your solution is hot, it's going to stay warm. If your solution is cold, it's going to stay cold. Yeah, for sure. There's no need to put, insulation on the outside. There's no need to insulate it because it's already an insulated material. No worries. This works really well for dewaxing. Is there an interior lining, PTFE or other, to protect against solvent leaching? Um, Leaching, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm pretty sure that concern, of something destroying the polypropylene or maybe your crude getting in there and staining the plastic. Doesn't happen. I would always recommend wiping your equipment after you finish using it, but it's there's no interior liner. No, we won't make a stainless steel insert or things like that. I've been asked all these things. We think it's necessary. It's unnecessary. Um, the only chemical that you should not use is pentane, but everything else, hexane, heptane, you can use straight up sulfuric, hydrochloric, or nitric acid in its purest forms. You can use aqua regia to wash this thing down, and nothing's going to happen to it or the pump. You could pump straight acid through the pump, and you're good to go. Nothing's going to happen to it. What is the terpene compatibility? Uh, yeah, look, the only terpene that you may or may not have an issue with is D-limonene. I have never seen an extract that runs pure limonene. So really, the amount of limonene you're going to have in there is very little. So we actually recommend that you use limonene to clean your equipment. The guys from Miyagi's Wax Off sell some great limonene that works fantastic to clean your boiling flask, get all that crude out of there, and that works fantastic to clean your trolley. Um, and most of these things, when you look at the material compatibility charts, it's in a laboratory condition where they'll basically take a piece of plastic and dip it in limonene and leave it there for such amount of time, and heat it up to such amount of temperature for a while, and then you'll see some decomposition. Well, we're not going to, you know, soak the trolley in limonene, in hot limonene. What we're going to do is wipe the trolley down with limonene, and you probably want to get that limonene smell out of there. You don't want that limonene showing up in your extracts later. I would wash it down with alcohol. Ethanol is great. Just wipe your equipment down with ethanol or ISO or something like that. You know, get the sticky stuff out with limonene, and then use a solvent to do the final cleanup. And then your machine is going to last you a decade. Yes, it'll last you a decade. Can you use solvents in on your machine? Absolutely. Ethanol, ISO, methanol. It's all safe. You know, like I said, hydrochloric acids. Most basis solvents except, what was it, pentane? Yeah, yeah. Stay away from pentane. So if you guys are using pentane, do not use it on the trolley because it will dissolve your plastic. You'll ruin the machine and can't help you there. Can you use silica on this machine? Yes, you can use silica as in diatomaceous earth. Yes, you can use silica gel 60. Yes, you can use Magsil PR. This is not a chromatography column, but many users use Magsil, silica gel um, over their paper to capture contaminants. You can use, alumina, perlite. Yeah, you can use awesome. How about carbon or clay? Yes, you can use carbon and clay as a filter bed. Um, just a note on carbon and clay. I recommend carbon and clay to be used under agitation. So, you know, I would not filter over a bed of carbon. I would throw the carbon in a bucket or whatever, or if you have an agitated tank, is better. Agitate it for, X amount of minutes and then filter that out. At least the carbon that we sell has a very small diameter. It's very small, very fine. So it acts very fast. It will get all the contaminants out very fast. But when you come to filter it, wow, that's it's a project. It's so then you're going to need a filter aid to remove the carbon, and you would not want that carbon showing up in your boiling flask because you can have all kinds of problems when you're distilling. Um, and clay itself, wow, clay is usually very sticky. It'll clog your stuff up. So if you're using carbon and clay, use a healthy bed of filter aid. How difficult is this machine to clean? We did a demo with Future 4200 in Colombo Labs, and we used SPD waste, which is that black tar stuff that's left over after you do distillation, the stuff that you just throw away. And yeah, would it take us, I don't know, 10 15 minutes to really wipe it all down and clean that stuff up? It really is not rocket science. Obviously if you have a Buchner funnel, you can wipe it down with a cloth in 10 seconds. Well, yeah, this is a little bit bigger, so it's going to take more time, absolutely, but it's not difficult to clean. And then if you're concerned about Eagle 20 Myclo or those kinds of contaminants from your extracts, and you really want to make sure there is no contaminants, you could really grab straight nitric acid or hydrochloric acid and just destroy any kind of potential bacteria or spore or chemical in there that may be left behind for whatever reason. So you can't do that with a stainless steel system. Throw some nitric acid on stainless steel, tell me what happens. So it's easy to clean and it's safe to clean with nasty stuff. Can it distill wax? This is not a distillation apparatus, so no, it can't. Does this have a way to get temperature down to minus 50 to dewax or just filtering? It's a filter. It doesn't have any kind of refrigeration or nothing like that. So no. What's dewaxing anyways? So usually dewaxing is a term when you're doing BHO or something like that. I'm not an expert in this field, but when you have a column and you're dewaxing in a column, your BHO extract, actually you're extracting whatever. But for all intents and purposes, layman's terms, what we mean by dewaxing is when you're removing fats, lipids, oils, waxes from winterized material. So you are dewaxing, removing back waxes from winterized solutions. What material are these machines made of, anyways? Radioactive plastic? Yeah, we get a lot of trolls. This is actually made by a company, a plastic, of a German company called Simona, and it's a food grade polypropylene. So this is a German high quality plastic. We also use Bayer plastics. I don't know if you've heard of Bayer before, but we do not use Chinese plastics. It's all German Simona or German Bayer plastics. Where are the machines made in? China? No. These machines are made in Italy. We work with a small factory in Italy. These guys are fantastic, and they make all kinds of products um, out of plastics, and we have a great relationship with them. So yeah, a lot of users comment about the cost. We use very high quality materials, and we do have skilled machinists and engineers that cut these things and do a really fine job at manufacturing. So even though you think that you could do this in your backyard, I'm sure you could, but it's easier said than done. How loud is the pump on the trolley? It's 70 decibels. Yep, it's very loud. The compressor will usually provide more noise than the trolley itself, but yeah, it's loud. You could stand next to it and speak and whatever. You can hear each other, and it's not deafening. After a while, you kind of just zone it out. But yeah, it is lab. It is loud. If you are in an unlicensed laboratory and you need to not make a big fuss, yeah, don't buy this machine. How much air does the pump consume? It's about 18 cubic feet per minute at 100 psi. So that works out to about a 5 horsepower pump, a compressor. So, you can get like a 5 horsepower, 80-gallon compressor at Home Depot, and that'll work out exactly, 5 horsepower. If you get smaller, the pump runs slower. You could use a 2 horsepower compressor, but it will not keep up. An 80-gallon compressor, you will eat up that air stored in that 80-gallon compressor in, I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes, really. I mean, the amount of air these things consume is insane. So don't skimp and say, no, I'll just get a 3 horsepower compressor with a 100-gallon tank, and the tank will hold me up for an hour. No, no, no. That tank's going to last you 5 minutes, I guarantee it. And then what happens is that the compressor is going to just run forever. It's never going to stop. If you are running this machine all day, every day, don't go to Harbor Freight and buy a cheap Chinese compressor. I have nothing against Harbor Freight, but my point being is that your compressor is going to fail. Those machines are not made to be run all day, every day. They're in a regular shop. You're using your air for a few minutes and then it turns off. But if the compressor is running all the time, you get a real industrial compressor, Solaire or something like that. How does the machine compare to the competition? It's on a league of its own. It really is. I mean, it's just really huge. There's nothing out there that's this big, that's this easy to use. The price point is great. It really is. And the reviews speak for themselves. Talk to our users, look at our posts, and you really see it's a good machine at a good price, and it's really simple to use. So how is this machine better than a drain droid? Again, the drain droid, it really is a very nice machine. It's a quality, sturdy, nice stainless steel machine. Absolutely, the guys at Extract Labs, they're great guys for sure. But it's expensive. At least we were quoted a machine and it's something like $70,000. I know that online they say it's like 13, but after you add an expensive pump and all of these doodads, it's really expensive. Our most expensive machine is 11,500, including shipping. So after I get the drain droid shipped to me, I'm gonna be out a pretty penny, and it's The our $11,000 machine is, what is it, 1.7 times the size of a drain droid. So if we do whatever dollars per cubic inch or something like, or square inch or something like that, I mean, we've got them beat hands down. Um, we don't require a vacuum pump. Some of these vacuum pumps are very delicate. You know, you have to have vapor traps and things like that. They're not Vacuum pumps are not made to be pump usually are not made to be pumping out solvents, and they can the oil ones. You know, the oil will get all full of solvent and they will break, and bad things happen with these pumps, and they're expensive and delicate. So yeah, our pump, the big pump, is $250, the rebuild kit, and I'm not a mechanically inclined person, but I can rebuild that thing in 30 minutes. It's really simple to do. You know, I I I, I don't see how you could break that pump. I mean, our pumps are just so easy to use, so robust and powerful. I mean, it just makes no sense to use a, a diaphragm pump, a vacuum pump in this kind of operation. You know, I understand that's what the industry is used to because of the SPD. Everybody seems to have a vacuum pump in the shop, but I just feel that it's not the right pump for this kind of application. Um, the mechanism used to hold down the filter paper is not efficient. Everybody tells me this. So it uses like just a little metal ring and it holds down the paper. Yeah, but you know, when you get to this size, the paper seems to like flour up on the edges, and you get your fats, oils, and waxes going through the sides. I had a demo the other day, and I was just, you know, we had a pin size leak on the gasket. The way I installed it, I messed up. I apologize to my boy, but I really got chewed out over it. You know, I can imagine that user using a drain droid. I mean, you will have leaks no matter what, whatever you do. You know, you might not hear it, but the paper is not secured, so you have to have a perfectly flat paper, and you're gonna have leaks. So with our system, that usually if you do your job right and install the gasket right, it will not leak. Um, the hopper on the drain droid, like most of these other funnels, because of their gasket system, is not made to be full of solution, and it'll actually become top heavy, and if you're not careful, it's easy to topple it over. I've had a customer said, "Dude, I've toppled mine over. Like, it's dangerous." Obviously, it's not made right to be full of solution. You have to be pouring the solution in. With our funnel, we dropped in like 20 gallons the other day, and just sat, you know, chewed the fat until it finished filtering. I don't have to be feeding that thing, so I don't have my hands aren't cold feeding this beast. So yeah, that's definitely huge benefit, and I don't have to worry about my solution warming up because I have an insulated material. You know what happens when you put anything in a steel container? You know, steel is a perfect conducer. So your solution, if you pour it all in at once, the drain droid, it'll warm up. It's not insulated, you know. And then what happens, yes, I know stainless steel is a little bit easier to clean, but all of these machines have little holes and little cracks everywhere. Everything that's machined that has little cracks in there where stuff could stick to it. I would hate to see you fail a state test because of some contamination. I know that the odds of that happening are slim to none, but if you're like me and you're just like obsessed about cleanliness, yeah, grab some nitric acid on a drain droid, see what happens. You can't do that. So I'm not saying that they're difficult to clean. You could probably clean this out safely with Miyagi's wax off and some kind of solvent. Absolutely, you can. Like I said, the drain droid's a great machine. I like it myself, but that's where we differ. How is it better than a Hawkstrom? Look, Hawkstrom is it's a nice little machine, but it's a toy. It's a 5.5 inches. It's a very small filter. If you One of the users told me, if you drop the Hawkstrom, it will break. It's just so heavy. So these guys made this machine so great. It's such a high quality machine that it's too high quality. It's too heavy. It's a billet of a stainless steel. It's just too heavy. If you drop this thing, it'll break. But in the end, it's 5.5 inch interior diameter funnel. It's a very small laboratory filter. It's just really small. Um, and then you got to get a whole set of stuff. I think I saw on the website that you have to have a very expensive diaphragm pump. a very expensive vacuum pump to power these things. So same similar problems with the drain droid and other system. It's just a very small system, vacuum, diaphragm pump based, and you need a. I saw a guy that had like 12 Hawkstroms. Wow, that just blew my mind. It's just overkill. I mean, you have to be feeding the Hawkstrom. You have to, yeah. I mean, those are some of the drawbacks. What about the Bell Art? I mean, the Bell Art's a lot cheaper and it's really similar to what we were doing. It's a plastic too, right? Um, yeah, it's polyethylene, not polypropylene. So, and it's also like a quarter-inch thick, if I'm not mistaken. I know I saw a user that has one, and he sent me a picture of his. It just cracked. Cracked because of the type of plastic. It cracked because it's just not as thick as ours. Also, the bottom filter grate, the thing that has the holes in the bottom, it'll warp when you really put cold solution and all of the solvent and everything. Over time, it warps, and the way the paper is installed on these things, um, that warping makes the installation of the paper, or at least to have a proper seal, makes it impossible. And so it comes to a point where it's impractical to use or impossible to use because the paper won't lie flat and you're going to get leaks. So yeah, that doesn't work out. It doesn't come with a pump, of course. Ours does. The hopper's loading capacity is small. Our small filters don't have a high hopper like our large filter. So in that regard, it's similar to a Bell Art, but the way the Bell Art is designed, it is not meant to be fully loaded with solution. It's really meant to be fed because you will create those leak issues. And I may be wrong. I mean, I'm not a Bell Art user, so if I'm saying something that's wrong, I apologize. But um, again, with these really large papers, the paper flares up at the edges, and that'll tend to cause leaks. This paper's not meant to be submerged for the most part. The hopper's not made to be filled all the way to the top. I need to have a pump that's UL certified. Also, a filter that's UL certified. Can you help? ASME certified. So we can design filter presses to UL 508A if you require. Um, so ASME really doesn't have any jurisdiction over our design since it's not it's not a pressure vessel, and we get a lot about this. Everybody calls me about certification and these kinds of listings, but they can't really tell me what that is. So yeah, if you are doing BHO, you want to have that ASME stamp. That's important. But this is not a pressure vessel, so those things just don't apply. What are your lead times? Manufacturing times is 60 days. Actually, it isn't. It's actually 90 days. So you can expect delivery in about 3.5 months, something like that, if we ship by air. Um, and if you have a larger order, we can ship by sea. It'd be a few more months after that. Uh, we usually take pre-orders on manufacturing stock, and when we have it, we ship it out. So a lot of times we'll order a bunch of filters, but by the time they actually get stateside, we're almost sold out. So sometimes you can get in on it and get stock, but as a good salesman, I'd have to tell you that buy yours now and we'll deliver it whenever it gets here. Can I pay more to expedite shipping? Yeah, sometimes. Really expensive, but yeah, just call and ask. Do you have a storefront? We don't. We do not have a storefront. We have a warehouse in Miami, a bonded warehouse where everything comes in there, and from there we ship to our distributors and directly to our customers. And our manufacturing facility is in Florence, Italy. So if you're ever in Italy, give us a call and we can schedule a walk through our factory in central Italy. Do you do demos? Well, I'm actually doing demos right now, but we usually don't. Many of the laboratories are unlicensed, and we just don't like to visit unlicensed facilities for many reasons. But the big point of the demos was to take pictures and to prove our concept. I think we've gone through several torture tests and have enough filters out there that we don't really need to prove a point. And a lot of demos that we did initially, many of the people were claiming all kinds of proprietary information, or they didn't want pictures online. So the demo was more of a sales call. Here, take a look how it works to see if you want to buy it or not. We're far beyond that, so we don't do demos anymore. But look, in the end, buy a filter, and if you don't like it, just send it back. I mean, we'll give you your full money back within 30 days. If you just really think it sucks, just give us a call. Listen, I think it sucks. It doesn't work for me. It didn't work for me. We can try to help you and make it work for you. But if you just don't want it, no worries. Send it back. We'll send you your money back. You have 30 days from the day you receive it to get your money back. How does a diaphragm pump works? Click on this YouTube link, and that's how a diaphragm pump works. I'm not going to go into detail here. What trade shows do you exhibit? Yeah, we're not a big trade show kind of operation, but we will be at the MJ BizCon in Vegas every year. We do go to some of the NCIA shows, Canacon absolutely, and Indo Expo. We'll probably be at other trade shows from time to time, and follow us on Instagram to see where we're going to be. Are you the only one who sells the paper? Yep, we're the only ones that sell it, but you can have it manufactured from other companies. You can buy it off of Amazon. Yes, the small size you can buy it off of Amazon, but the big size you really can't. This is a lie. But you could actually have it manufactured for you. It's not a big deal. You don't have to buy 50,000 sheets of paper. A couple thousand is fine. And the problem is that if you're going to manufacture, by the time you quote, have a template cut, you're talking maybe 2 months, maybe more. So it's just probably faster and cheaper to buy it from us. But again, if you don't like us, sure, you can call one of the hundreds of paper companies in the US and have them manufacture for you. You do not have to buy from us. How often do you change the filter paper in a single run? If you are filtering 55 gallons in a run, would I have to split up the run? It depends, how much wax you have, what's your dissolution rate, how much filter aid you're using. So there's a few tricks. If you're doing a 3-stage filtration, I could totally see, at least on the 800 millimeter filter trolley, I could totally see you filtering 55 gallons on a single run. I could totally see you filtering 100 gallons in a single run. If you're using the right paper, if you're using the right procedure, if you're using a nice thick bed of filter aid. So you could definitely see that. Maybe if you had 50% wax, and this 55 gallons was actually a 4-to-1 dissolution rate, you might not make it. But if you're regular 5, 10, 15% wax on a 10-to-1 dissolution, I could totally see you getting there on 50 gallons or more. We did 20 gallons, was it 20 liters of crude easily with just SPD waste, and we had a cake of about an inch of fat, and we got through it with one paper. When do I need to change the paper? Yeah, when the solution, when the paper is bound, when the paper is clogged. When that's going to happen, I don't know. When the paper is new, the holes are not clogged up, so everything moves fast. As the paper gets solution through it, the holes start to clog up, everything starts to slow down. But also the fibers in the paper, depending on the type of paper, they swell up, and so the little holes get smaller and smaller and smaller. Generally, you'll just see it. You'll see how the solution slows down, and you come to a point where, like, this is ridiculous. This is never going to finish because it's going too slow. How long it's going to last, when do I need to change, that's up to you. It's up to your patience. When you just say, this is enough, this is too slow for me, it's a waste of time, I got to change the paper. And you'll figure that one out, and you'll come to a conclusion where, okay, with this setup, this paper, this DE at this thickness, with this solution, I can only filter 10 gallons of 10-to-1 per batch, or I can actually do 50 per batch before I actually need to change a paper. and you'll come to that conclusion yourself. So it's all about how much throughput you're expecting, how much throughput meets your expectations. I have 20 gallons of solution on my trolley, and my paper is now clogged. Wow. Eh, there's no way to filter out even if I let it work overnight. Yeah, once the paper binds, it comes to a point where it just completely stops. So there's nothing you can do. Um, there's just absolutely nothing you can do. It just the paper binds, and you can't filter. So one of the trick. This is just a trick. This is not an SOP. This is not something that you should be doing. But just grab a silicone spatula and just scrape the paper, and you scrape up those heavy waxes. If it's waxes that are clogging you up, you scrape it, and then I'll get you through the process. But just live and learn, and obviously you overdid it. So scrape the paper, put the wax on a side, or just I just pile it up and get through the filtration that you're doing. And the next time around, hey, okay, I was able to filter 30 gallons. Maybe 50 was too much. Next time I know better. I'll split it into two batches, something like that. This machine looks heavy. How much is it weigh? So the small one is 70 pounds. The big one is only 200 pounds. So a buddy and I can lift the 200 off the back of the 800 off the back of my truck. It looks super heavy and huge, but it's not that bad. Is the filter plate removable for cleaning? You mean the filter grate, the thing on the bottom with the little holes? Absolutely. We got these little hooks that come with the machine to lift it up, and you could clean that up really easily. We blow compressed air through it, and then we to get all the water from the little holes, and then we wipe it down, and it works pretty good. What filter paper grade do you recommend? Yeah, three-stage filtration, and you can go with a heavy grade to begin with. This is all in our SOP. So like you could do 45 down to maybe 20 or 10 micron the first pass. The second pass could be on a 10 micron, 8 micron, 5 micron. And then on the finishing pass, the polishing pass, usually like I like 1.5. Some users like 1.7. It just depends on your material. But yeah, 3 stages, a roughing pass, then a mid, and then a polishing pass with accordingly sized paper. You would use a filter 8 on the first pass, second and third, not so much. How many times do you recommend we re-winterize? Um, you know, most of the work can be done in one pass. That's the truth. If you want top, top, distillate, great stuff. Yeah, run this 3 times. First you remove the heavy waxes, and then you work your way down on particle size, and there's a lot of research, and you'll learn through trial and error what these fats and lipids look like through different processes. So different fats, lipids, and waxes will drop out during different circumstances. As you're removing stuff, the solubility of your solution changes. You're able to drop out more stuff at different temperatures. Different things drop out. So you'll learn. But yeah, we'll send you an SOP. But I recommend 3 times: room temperature, and then like a cold, and then like a minus, whatever, super cold. What is a typical SOP your customers do in winterizing and filtering? So take your do some research first. I can send you some information on how to do research, but try to find the perfect solvent, the perfect crude to solvent ratio. Do some tests in your laboratory, and the test should be continuous. Things change over time. Your material changes. The fat percentages of an OG is different from some other. Indica, sativas, different strains. Everything changes. So, you know, keep you on your feet. Do some research always, and try to find that sweet spot for that specific material, for that specific extraction method that works best for you. Um, and once you find the perfect solvent to use, the perfect ratio to use, uh, you know, we recommend that you dissolve your solution in a solvent. We like ethanol. We like 190 proof, um, and then the fats. drop out at room temperature. All of these things that I'm going through, reference it on future4200.com, email us, call us, buy a filter, and I'll send you the SOP. But it's all public information online, hire a consultant. But yeah, you go through a three-stage filtration, but in general, you drop out the heavies first, then the mids at a lower temperature, and then the light stuff, light oils and things on a third pass, and get you going. Here's a different papers. We have, again, we can get other papers that you want, but it's a three-step process at three different temperatures with three different paper grades, and on the first pass using filter 8. And you could reference this here. What is a filter rate anyway? Yeah, it's just something that helps you filter better to prevent your paper from binding, i.e. clogging. The installation of the paper sucks. It took me 10 minutes. It doesn't work for me. Okay, so after a few months, we really figured out what this comment was about. So look, it should really take you only a few minutes to install the paper. But for this particular user, we actually got a few pallets of paper that was too big, and we didn't realize that the paper was too big. But the paper should just fit inside the filter properly. You put your gasket in there and you're done. But for this user, he got paper that was too big, and so it was really difficult to actually install this paper. Obviously, we order paper from a manufacturer with certain specifications, and it was just shocking to see that we got pallets of paper that were too big, and that was really unfortunate, and we apologize for this kind of inconvenience. We don't actually manufacture the paper. Alstrom manufactures it for us, and it was it was a mistake, and we apologize for that. But paper should not take forever to install it. We usually do it in about a minute or two. So yeah, that's what this is about for sure. We apologize for that. What's the lid for? Does it create negative pressure? It does not. The lid is a fume hood. So it'll reduce the evaporation rate, and you can connect it to a laboratory fume exhaust fume scrubber. I think you have no idea what you're talking about. Product's garbage. You're late to the game. Way overpriced. Yeah, that really wasn't a question. Like if you don't like us, just don't follow us. Delete my number. Block me. Just don't buy my stuff. It's pretty simple. Just go troll somebody else. Buy somebody else's equipment. There's far better machines out there than ours. So if you have the money, buy them. Just what kind of warranty do you offer? 12 months. Mechanical operation. I'm not saying that I'm going to replace a lid because you dropped it and you broke it. If you break the machine on purpose or by negligence, yeah, you're on your own. But I mean, if you use the machine with the chemicals that you're allowed to do, which means you're not going to use pentane on it, you're going to have no problems. And if you do, we'll make it right. Yeah, so we guarantee that the machine is going to work for 12 months. I have one that's been working for 10 years. So the lifespan of this machine is actually 25 years. The first thing that's going to give up on you is the pump. But, they can be rebuilt over and over and over and over. So you can expect a lifespan of 12 years, but we will guarantee that it works for a year. So prove this machine works? Sure. Try it. It's a filter. Filter out anything, not just crude. Try it for 30 days. If you like it, keep it. If you hate it, just don't want it, send it back. No worries, we'll give you your money back. So that concludes our, you're probably watching this on YouTube, but anyway, if in our website, here's our YouTube link where we post other videos, tutorials, and Q&As and all these kinds of things. I hope I didn't bore you so much with this 5-hour video.